Hello, it's Ron and Hope Unfiltered. We are so happy to be here today. This is season 3, episode 40, I think it is. We just cranking these out. How are you feeling today?
I got jet lag.
Last week, you wanted everybody to know you were in pain and that you were injured.
Still in pain.
Today,
But I don't want to talk about my pain.
you're jet lagged. Okay?
And I didn't sleep well last night.
I didn't either. I had a headache.
Why didn't I sleep well?
You said I was snoring. You said I was snoring.
It was really bad.
What's it sound like?
It has no consistency.
What's it do?
Scary at times. Barbaric.
Is it loud?
Like flesh eating.
Is it loud?
Beyond belief.
No, it is
And
not.
I just lay there and I'm like, how is that sound coming out of that beautiful thing? How is all that noise?
Because I've been sick.
Baby, it's not just
I've had sinus
recently.
stuff. It's not recent. You snore.
No, I don't.
Yes,
I blow.
you do.
I blow.
You go,
That ain't snoring. Blowing bubbles is not
I feel
snoring.
like the bed's collapsing or something.
No.
It's like,
Yours is like,
don't exaggerate.
if you ever watched Jurassic World,
No. Well,
the Lost World.
tell me what it sounds like.
I can't produce it. I have to get a synthesizer.
Oh my God.
It's so bad. I was so tired. I wanted to sleep.
But you hit me and you'll say, turn over. You're
Stop.
snoring so bad.
But turning over didn't help. Nothing
So
conquered it
why
last
do you
night.
wake me? Go in another room.
No, I can't.
Why?
I can't do that. I can't be one of them old people where you sleep in separate rooms. I can't do that. I can't go there. I'd rather stay awake than
Okay.
do that. So last night I paid every price.
Okay. Well, tonight I'm
jet
going
lag.
to sleep good too.
You went to bed early and slept late
But
this
I
morning.
got up with a headache, remember?
Why didn't you tell me? I'd have prayed for you.
Ron, I did tell you. You said, where are you going? I said, I'm going to get something for my headache.
And I prayed for you.
Oh, Lord.
Did it get better?
This is going round and round.
Did it get better?
No, it didn't.
It did get better.
Okay, it did, baby. It did.
When I spoke the
Tell
name of
you
the Lord,
what you want to hear.
when I spoke the name of the Lord, it got better.
Well, that's exactly what we're talking about today is miracles.
I thought we was talking about sex before marriage.
Ron, you are jet lagged. You don't know where you are.
just said you want to talk about that. I'm like, what is there to talk about?
That's why we said we weren't going to talk about it.
It'll be over quick.
I said because people are having sex before marriage.
No,
But what does the Bible say about it?
not church people.
Oh, Lord, here we go.
You're not supposed to.
But
Not
you know
supposed
what?
to.
You're not supposed to overeat either.
Baby,
You're not supposed to.
you can't water that down to
You can't be
overeating.
gluttonous either, and you're
can't
not
water
supposed to
that down.
hate either, and you're not supposed to be envious either. But people do all the
Yeah,
things.
but all those other things don't have the ramifications and the soul ties and all
Right.
that other stuff that goes with it.
But we can't shame the people who have,
No.
who are. We got to
We've
show
never
them a
shamed
better
anybody.
way.
We've never shamed anybody. But you're not supposed to.
No, you're not.
You're supposed to wait until you've been married and sex was made for marriage.
But then what happens when you get married? You eat that wedding cake, and there's
Wedding
something
cake.
in the wedding cake.
Nutritionists say don't touch it.
Why?
It just kills sex drive.
The wedding cake kills
Yeah.
sex drive.
It just destroys it. Something about as soon as you sign that certificate and say I do, it just
When you say I do,
goes
then
right
you
out
don't.
the goes right out the
You
door.
don't no more.
Let's talk about miracles.
Let's do it.
What we wanted to do is, long ago, one of our most talked about and most viewed podcasts when I talked about something called Weird Church.
Yep.
And basically talking about, I don't care what's popular. I don't care what's going. I don't care what's relevant. I'll never sell out to a powerless, impotent God. I'm just not going to do it. And I'm not going to try to let my media and marketing corporate savvy build something that is a type of what God really wanted to build in the earth. I want to be sharp. I want to run things well. I want to be fiscally smart. I want to be a great leader to my staff. I want to be impactful, and I understand there's that side of it, but it's not the only side.
Right.
And when we've taken the power of God to cast out a demon afflicted person, enslaved to the will of a demon, when we take that and throw it out the door, when there's when there's no more altars even in churches because we put the seat right up next to the stage, when there's no anointing oil, when there's no laying on of hands, when there's not even an opportunity. I didn't come with wise or persuasive words of man's wisdom, 1 Corinthians 2, but I came in power and demonstration of the Holy Ghost. In other words, he said, I didn't come to impress you. He said, I came in power.
Yeah.
He said, if I come, devils are going to get cast out, yokes are going to be broken,
you know, how many
miracles are going to happen.
How many meetings have we sat around tables and all of the things we've talked about, and we've been guilty of it, of this is what you got to do to impress people when they walk in. It's got to look like this. Oh,
but I don't mind all
that. For that.
I don't mind all that. But to me, that's wrapping paper.
But the focus cannot be the focus.
No, it's wrapping paper. And because I'm not going to be hypocritical. Yeah, I'm not going to be hypocritical. I have employed a lot of that in church. Now, I didn't early on. Nobody was doing that in 91.
And we didn't have any of that, but we had the power.
And we had the power.
And the demonstration.
And what I've tried to do now is incorporate a lot of the things that are culturally relevant. But when it comes down to what I believe and who I am, that is not up for discussion.
Right.
And, just recently, we've had some of the most powerful altar calls ever. Just seeing the demonstration of God all over the place. It's just amazing some of the things that's been happening. And so the fact is, it's not that, I'm trying to hold the line to Pentecost. It ain't that I want to be that. It's that there's just no way around without just skipping the whole book of Acts, which is the birth and foundation of the church. Unless you just skip the whole book. And then probably a good quarter to 30% of everything the Apostle Paul wrote about, and then the entire ministry of Jesus. I don't know how you just say, we're not going to let that stuff happen in our services. Jesus didn't just come for death, burial, and resurrection. He came so we could behold the glory. The glory is the weight and authority and the power of God. And so Jesus demonstrated the authority and the power of God everywhere he went. He healed all that were sick and afflicted of the enemy. But there's some things you have to do. Now we corporately have the same authority that Jesus had individually. That's why there's over 5,000 denominations, because the enemy is divided from within, and we have no corporate voice because every preacher believes something different. And so we find out the preacher.
And then you have people who don't think it's important to go to church.
We find, that's another current thing with the rise of the internet. But so now that we have preachers that believe a million different things, we get to go to the church that preaches the Jesus I like.
Yeah.
Instead of the Jesus that changes me.
Mm-hmm. The style of worship I like.
And so we've reversed the whole thing, because Jesus did not come to be like. Jesus said he came to bring a sword. Jesus said he came to divide family members, mother and father.
Yeah.
Jesus, the fact is, Jesus' numbers didn't grow. Jesus' numbers decreased. And do I want to be in a church with 5 people? No, I want to blow the doors out of a city. But I do not think that the demonstration of God amongst the people who so badly need his touch is up for discussion. And a world which is demonstratively more supernatural and demonic leaning supernatural, they are wide open and letting everybody know there is other power out there. Mm-hmm. And we are doing everything we can to not be weird. And the thing we call weird is God doing something that ain't normal.
Right.
So we just normal people and normal songs.
But it's who he is.
Right.
It's why he came.
He's spiritual.
He said, I came to set the captives free.
And, our little ankle deep sermons are not going to do that. So I was talking to Travis Green a while back, and I knew this. And he said, let me counter that. He said, the reason, so many of my generations have moved away from that, he said, is because, guys in your generation and above you didn't finish well. I said, you're exactly right. So you got a lot of the guys that really demonstrated.
So you're throwing the baby out with the bathwater.
So you got a lot of the guys that were very eccentric. I don't know what it was about the generation. Not really my generation, the one above me. I'm kind of a tweener generation.
You are.
There ain't no pastors in my generation. I'm kind of a bridge. Mm-hmm. I'm in between two generations. But the one ahead of me, they were, usually if they demonstrated the power of God, they were very eccentric. Mm-hmm. And you have this treasure in earthen vessels. And the problem is the vessel so repels you, it's hard to get the treasure because you're trying to overcome what you're looking at.
But I will say, we've been in many Benny Hinn crusades, and it's real.
Oh, my gosh.
I will never forget.
The most powerful encounters with God I've ever had.
That we were sitting up on the stage, and he was on the other side of the stage, and he turned around, pointed at you, and said, "Run, Carpenter." Didn't even touch you. It was probably 30 feet away.
No, he's on across stage,
from you. And you flew backwards.
It's on film. And I landed on the back of my neck with my feet over my head. And everybody say, what's the point of that?
I don't know.
When I got up, the point of it was the fear of God. And the reason we have so many irreverent shock jock pastors is because they've never had God encounters.
Yeah.
God encounters give you the fear of God. When I was a child and I would see those miracle services going on, I'm going to tell you, I cut out my foolishness.
Yeah.
I cut out talking to my friends. I paid attention, and you start sitting there like that. Why? Because God just entered the room. Mm-hmm. And when God entered the room, there's a fear of God when you see him working things that are above men and that are above women. And we have a whole generation that have had zero God encounters, have never even been in an atmosphere like that. Mm-hmm. And so you can tell in the way they talk and the way their language is slang, the way there's kind of no reverence in the way they do things. There's no honor for anybody. Pastor's hip and, kind of dress Jesus up in jeans and put him in your back pocket. And they've taken the honor of the kingdom, the culture of the kingdom out of it. And then what happens is when you had no God encounters, baby, the fear of the Lord is gone. And the beginning of the wisdom is the fear of the Lord. And so I just wanted me and you to share 3 or 4 bona fide miracles. I'm not talking about laid hands on me and I was slain in the spirit, and I have been on many occasions, and it's real. But I'm talking about bona fide, I have no explanation for how this happened.
Real early in our marriage, we just had Chase. He was probably, I don't know, a year old. You think he was a year old?
He was in a cradle. I remember carrying him in the...
Yeah, maybe a few months old. And he just started vomiting.
We're sitting at a restaurant. The cradle was sitting beside me on the floor. He was
vomiting like green. And we could tell. I said, Ron, something's wrong.
He had this glaze over his eyes in green.
And so we went to the ER.
We drove in snow like 100 miles an hour to the ER.
That is when
that was the febrile thing. Okay, you're right.
So we went to the ER. They did all these tests and X-rays and stuff.
They came out and said we got to open him up.
They said we got to cut him open. Yeah, he was only like a month old.
Yeah, he has a twisted intestine. Okay, let me get interject.
There you go.
So they had a screen, and they put the barium in him.
Yep.
And we literally watched the barium go in his body, and it got to the twist, and it just stopped. And they said if we don't get to that, they said that can kill him. And they said the green stuff coming out of his mouth was bile.
Yeah.
So his liver bile was coming back up because he could not pass through his digestive tract. We had no insurance.
None.
Nothing. Just struggling to make it. And I went and I saw it right on that screen. Well, of course, you're on the edge of freaking out. Fear's gripping me. At that moment, he's our young kid. He was our everything. And I did what I knew to do. I started praying in tongues and praying in the spirit as hard as I could pray.
In that hospital.
Not being ridiculous, but I prayed out loud because I didn't know what was going on.
Right.
And when you don't know what to pray as you ought, the Spirit gives utterance. See, that I believe that.
I do too.
I don't believe that was for the book of Acts, and I don't believe that's for you folks who do that. You come on Tuesday night, and we're not going to promote it and tell nobody because y'all are crazy. That is a lifestyle.
Right.
And I got on there, and I began to intently,
Pray in the Spirit. Pray in tongues.
Out of fear. I was trying to get a hold of my fear, begin to pray in the Spirit of God in other tongues. And I don't know, it's been a long time ago. And I sat there and watched on a screen. They were getting ready to open him up. I watched.
The untwist.
It untwisted right before my eyes, and all of a sudden I saw that barium start leaking, and there it went. Just started going right on through his digestive tract.
And I remember that doctor said, I have no idea what just happened.
Came back out. I don't know how this happened. I did.
Yeah.
When you don't know what to pray as you ought, the Spirit himself gives utterance that cannot be understood. And he does it with groanings. Just sometimes you can feel it coming up out of you.
How many miracles have people missed?
Just because of
by
that.
not believing for it and not praying for it. Just thinking that it doesn't happen today.
So, and, that is why it's hard to talk me and you out of this.
Right. We've seen it.
I've experienced too much. And your doctrine, my experience, never has to bow to your doctrine. Well, theologically, let me show you something, Pastor Ron. I don't care what you got theologically. I prayed in the Spirit, and I saw my son's intestines untwist right before they get ready to split his whole chest and gut open, and a doctor come out and look at me and say, I don't know.
Yeah.
But
we got a miracle.
We got our miracle. Hope, when we were getting ready to start a church, let's talk about money miracles. Don't cut me off. Stay right there. Let's talk about money miracles. And I'm not talking about millions of dollars. What we do now is global. We need millions of dollars to do what we do. Not there. That's not where God built our faith for where we are today. The reason we can believe God for financial miracles is because right out of the gate, me and you got married, and we started a church immediately with a gentleman we were doing an internship with, and literally rode around with the meeting in hotels and had the sound system in the trunk of a car. Just nothing.
The entire
starting a church. Yeah,
sound
starting
system
church
in the trunk of our car.
And we had been there just under a year, and we got a call, where we spent most of our life, Greenville. We got a call from a small group of people in Greenville. And I remember the gentleman's name even now. He's going to be with the Lord. And we're interested in starting a church in Greenville, and we were thinking about you. Hope. People don't believe this because a lot of people say, when they say I don't have no money, they mean they don't have much money, or they don't have no money to do that. When me and you say we didn't have any money, we didn't have any money. We lived off missionary money when we were
came in.
Yeah, we were church planters, interns, and we had gone around and asked people, churches for $50 a month, and we had $1,200-1,300 a month that would come in if it all came in. Some month it didn't come in.
That first
some
year,
month it did.
Our tax return was
$8,600.
$8,600 we lived
the first year as our tax return. So, long and short of it is, we were in Knoxville, Tennessee, and I needed to get to Greenville, 3.5-4 hour drive through the mountains. I needed one night for a hotel. I needed 2 tanks of gas, one down and one back. And I said, I need $100 to go meet with these people who want to start this church. We did not have $100.
We couldn't find it in our budget. It wasn't there. It wasn't in our envelopes.
Yeah,
Remember, we had money in envelopes.
We had envelopes. We didn't have any money. And you and I prayed. Now, I know prayer, I've said, is not the seed for money. But I don't even remember having seed. I don't remember having a dollar bill. We might have had some pennies in a jug.
We prayed and said, God, if it's your will.
Yeah, it was something along those lines.
For us to go to Greenville and start a church.
I need this $100.
You're going to have to provide this money for us.
I need this $100. And they had a deadline kind of by, we'd like to have this meeting by, because I was not the only person they had in mind. And I remember me and you grabbing hands and agreeing. And if any two agree, it shall be done by our Father which is in heaven. And was it 2 days? Seemed like it was 2 days.
I don't remember how many days it was, but it was the day before you had to leave.
The day before I had to leave. Maybe 3 or 4 days then. Guys, you can believe this. We got an envelope in the old check in the mail thing. We got an envelope in the mail. We never got mail. We had a tiny little apartment in Tennessee and went and been married a year.
Right.
We got an envelope with no return address.
But it had the stamp on it.
The postscript across the stamp was Bluewell, West Virginia. Bluefield, West Virginia. Do you know anybody in Bluefield, West Virginia?
I certainly didn't then.
To this day, I don't know anybody in Bluefield, West Virginia. I'm 56 to this day. So it has a postscript, Bluefield, West Virginia. It has no return address. So we're sitting there just opening mail, having kind of no idea. And mail back then was an event because we didn't get any mail. We opened up the mail, and it is a piece of typewriter paper.
Yeah, folded.
Tri-folded.
Yeah.
Just white typewriter paper. Nothing on it. And 5 $20 bills.
A miracle. We got it.
We didn't tell anybody. And then look at what God did.
Yeah.
This amazing people called redemption. But nobody in the world knew that but us. And God talked to somebody in Bluefield, West Virginia.
And we've even said so many times, was it really somebody or was it an angel?
Well, you've entertained angels unaware.
Did God just send the money?
Entertained angels himself. Unaware. I don't know.
But it was a miracle to us.
But it had nothing on, there was no letter, there was no letterhead, there was no writing, there was no return address, there was no nothing. Mm-hmm. It was a trifold, and inside the trifold was 5 $20 bills. I went down and had the meeting, and the rest is history.
Yeah. And we've lived like that.
That's why
for 35 years.
When people want to take the supernatural out of it, I'm like, you are missing the whole nature of God. Do you know how much God loves to do stuff like that? Because that's when you know it's him. When a doctor who studied medicine comes out and says, I don't know. That's got to bless God so good. That's got to, when I'm sitting here looking at these people saying, $100 caused redemption to come into being. And how many people
don't know
and
who
how
to
many
say
people
thank
have,
you to.
yeah, how many people have been touched by redemption? I don't even know. Don't know who to say thank you to, and don't know where it came from, and don't know I don't know if I know anybody in the whole state. I mean, I know some people used to live there, but I don't know anybody. And these are some of the stuff that just sticks out to me.
What about your daddy? The miracles of sowing seed. We're talking about money miracles. He was diagnosed with cancer.
My dad was given 6 months to live when he was 40 with stage 4 melanoma in his head.
Yeah.
And they had an emergency operation on his head. And I remember when I saw him after I got through, he was so disfigured, he didn't even look the same. Scary. And every time his cancer would come back, he would call me.
Like in 5 years, it would come back.
Mama said he always wanted me to be his faith guy. That's what Mom would tell me. He said, just tell Ron what's going on. Don't tell him the details. And I would go. I remember one night in particular, I wrote out a $5,000 seed, named it My Dad's Healing. I went down to the sanctuary for about half the night. I put the check on my chest, and I laid prostrate down on the floor in front of the stage before God. And I was not going to get up until I had a witness God had answered my prayer. Mm-hmm. And this is what I prayed. They found it in his lymph nodes. That's not good because your lymphatic system shoots it through your whole body. And I told God, I forgot about this one, Hope. I said, God, circle it and isolate it, which in the lymphatic system is unheard of.
Yeah. You said, God, just isolate it in that lymph node.
Got a call back from my dad. They're going to take out one lymph node because it was isolated to one lymph node.
And that happened several times with your dad. He ended up living, he was given
20
6
years.
months to live,
Yeah,
and he
20
lived
years.
a little over 20 years.
Every time I would sow a seed and go back in the presence of God and get a miracle every single time.
Yeah.
God would give us
We've
divine
seen
miracles.
so many miracles.
Oh, it just is just
when we sow seeds.
tell
Some
'em-
people
tell 'em-
some people laugh at that. They say it's prosperity gospel. They can laugh all they want.
Let me tell you, I explained it Sunday. You remember how I explained it Sunday? Because we have expansion offering here. And Ecclesiastes 10:19 says, money answers all things. And I told the congregation, I said, in the Silicon Valley, there's a lot of money. I said, don't that sound really worldly? I said, that sounds like an awful worldly statement. Well, money will fix anything. That's not what Solomon is saying.
Right.
What I've tried to teach people about money is people look at money and there's still almost kind of a side-eye look to money. Money has no spirit or identity of its own. Money is neutral. There's not good money, bad money. There's not any kind of money. Money's just a medium of exchange.
Right.
We exchange money for this.
Yeah.
We exchange money for this. I exchange money for this. I exchange money for this. We exchanged it for this. Money is a medium of exchange. It became a microphone, a telephone, a cup.
Right.
It takes on the identity that you give it. A tank of gas, a drive-through. That's all money is. As it is in the natural, 1 Corinthians 15, so it is in the spirit. Money answers all things. So there are a lot of people that just throw something in a bucket. Now let's make sure the church bills are paid.
They give it no
Just
identity.
miss everything. You're cutting covenant with God. And so we give our seed an assignment because that money does not know what it is. When we go to 7-Eleven and get gas, it knows what it is.
Yeah.
But when I throw it in an offering
in
bucket,
church,
it don't know what it is.
Unless you name it.
My father's healing, my wayward son coming home, my children free from drugs,
My marriage.
launching my new company, reconciliation in my marriage. You can't buy anything in the kingdom. You have to sow for it.
Right.
Because the foundational law of the kingdom is sowing and reaping. And we have learned to sow and name it, and bam,
It does happen.
God just shows up with these crazy. We built that almost 5,000 seat dome in Greenville off of a seed.
Yeah. Sowing into
Because
somebody else.
Ephesians 6:8, we believe the word. What you make happen for others, or the good that you make happen for others, God will make happen for you. When we took all of our resources and helped another man pay off his building, when we desperately needed a building, and in 4 days I had our building financed.
That's right. And it took us years.
2 years I
prior
couldn't get
to
it
that.
financed.
Yeah.
And in 4 days after that seed, we had it financed.
Right. Because we named our seed.
Because we
And
named our
believed
seed,
God.
we sent it out, and it came back, and God made happen for us what we made happen for somebody else. Over and over and over again. Bless you.
Our marriage today,
This miracle.
sitting here
Let's
today.
let that be the last one.
Our marriage sitting here today is the
2 things were
result
going on.
of a seed.
Okay, here again, my numbers and my days, I may not have it right, so you can correct my details, because those were some hard days. It may be blurry. We had been separated when our world was falling apart. By that time, a
Few months.
couple of months, 2 or 3 months, which was like 17 eternities to me, because I never in any day of my life ever thought I'd be by myself. And I think it was a pretty long time for you too, because you weren't doing that well either. We were at 2 different places. You were getting ministry, and I was surviving, holding down the fort and surviving. But I, made up my mind, didn't want to be married anymore. Being married is just too painful. And I had a God encounter.
You did.
There's just no other way around it.
You weren't
Because-
praying for it. You weren't believing for it.
No,
God
in fact,
came
the
and got
opposite.
you.
Yeah, because you know me, I'm not stubborn, but I am stubborn.
But I had been praying.
Well, let's give them the context. The context is, I'm a guy, when I make a decision, I don't come back around a lot and change it. I tell people my lines don't move. I may be more lenient now than I've ever been. Back then, I really didn't move. And I had just made the decision I was not going to seek any reconciliation. I was so hurt, that seemed like a mountain I just could not climb. But that's not who my God is.
Because in the background, I had been praying and fasting. I'd lost almost 30 pounds from praying and fasting, believing, because you kept saying, no, stop saying you're believing for a miracle. We're not getting a miracle. We're going to get a divorce. And I kept saying, I'm believing for a miracle. So I was praying.
And it was a miracle.
I was fasting. Nothing was happening.
Then that night.
Nothing was happening. Then that night,
I had the night, I call it the
encounter.
Jacob experience. Yeah. I had my night of wrestling with God. And I only think, it was almost as real as a physical presence. Wailing in the air, covers being torn off the bed. If you'd have seen me the next morning, I probably looked like a crazed man, screaming at the ceiling. God, what do you want with me? Just hollering it to the top of my voice. I mean to tell you, I was being rent from the inside out.
So that same morning, I had gotten desperate. I was like, this isn't going to happen.
You were giving up hope.
I was giving up. I said, this isn't going to happen. So I just went on a walk and I said, God, I just wish you would just kill me. I'm causing too much problems. I'm hurting too many people. Just somehow take me out. And God gave me a sign. I saw a little flower pop up from the asphalt and a beautiful bird fly out from an old deserted field. And he said, Hope, if I take care of those two, can't you trust me to take care of you? And I turned around and started walking back to the house. They said, you had called.
Well, let me go back to my story. That last time I screamed, I screamed, God, what do you want? He answered. And I remember distinctly as I'm talking in this microphone, call Hope and tell her you will not abandon her.
So.
And Hope, there was no feeling, that was sheer fear of God and obedience to God. And so I called my secretary, called off everything. I was a mess. Call off all my meetings, cancel everything, and I called. And you and I had not said a nice word in months. We had no conversation, and if we did, it was not good. And I called and tell them what was going on.
So they couldn't find me because I was on that walk. I came back, and I had to go get my face together. I had been crying, just pleading to God, and went back up there, and I said, God, because I was afraid because they told me you'd called. And like you said, it had never been a good conversation. So I'm like, oh, what is this going to be? So I'm like, God, give me a word. And he took me to the scripture in Samuel where David was going to buy a field. And because of who he was, the guy said, no, you can have it. You don't have to pay for this field. I'm going to give you this field and give you everything that goes with it. And David said, I will not offer anything to the Lord that doesn't cost me something. And I said, God, what are you saying to me? I feel like I'm trying to do everything you're asking me to do. And he said, sow a seed. I said, God, I don't have anything. Ron's cut me off. I don't have any credit cards. I don't have a checking account. But I had $1,000 in my wallet. And I was holding on to that for dear life because I didn't know where I'd end up if I had to start over. Like $1,000 could get me somewhere, but I was trying to hold on to something. And he said, I want you to take that $1,000 and give it to Lee and Denise Boggs. And I went down there and I told them the story, what had just happened between me and God, and I slid that money across the table, and we agreed, and you called, and you said, the whole story, you said, God's wrestled with me all night, and Hope, I want you to know that I will not abandon you. Everything that I had prayed and fasted and believed and the work that I had done on myself, nothing had changed your heart until that encounter with God and me being obedient to sow a seed is where I got my miracle.
Miracle, because I wasn't budging. And where you were, all of it's just a miracle. And Hope, we're saying that we told 4 stories out of
a lifetime,
4,000 of just, they came different ways for different reasons, for different times. But I can't remove this God element from my life. Knowing this side of God.
He is a God of miracles.
Has meant too much to my development and who I know He is.
Signs and wonders are still relevant and happening
Pastors,
today.
if you're listening to me, bring the power of God. Make room for people to experience God. I'm not talking about sing some really cool songs. I'm talking about make room.
Because people's lives are
messed
desperate.
up.
They're desperate.
You know, like the only thing we have to send a drug addict to now is rehab. Why? Because there's no power to break the yoke. I've seen more drug addicts get up and never want it again than I've ever seen get through rehab. But nobody does that anymore.
Miracles, signs, and wonders.
It's messy. Our church service is too pretty. I got to be out in 55 minutes. It's got to be pristine. And that stuff ain't pretty. That stuff is messy.
But you get desperate when you need a miracle.
Yes.
and
what would happen? The guys who would go to the clean churches until they needed a miracle, and where would they show up?
They'd call us.
Redemption.
Yep.
They show up at Redemption because they would make fun of us and poke fun at us till they needed God. And so we have a generation that sees Hollywood and everything else pumping out the supernatural left and right, and then they go to a church that is totally void of it. And so and those of you that attend churches, look for a church where the power of God is demonstrated. When you preach about a thing, it's the preaching of the word and the ministry of the word. Give room for God to minister the word you just preached.
And if you're listening to this and you need a miracle, it could be in your money, it could be in your marriage,
God.
It could be in your body, be in your children, whatever it is. Let faith arise in you today to believe God for a miracle. He is a miracle working God.
The testimony of Jesus is the spirit of prophecy. We're sitting here testifying of Jesus, and it gives you a glimpse of the prophetic. When you hear what we say and testify, it gives you a glimpse of what God can do for you. So there's a prophetic unction that is going out, even as you and I talk about the goodness of God and His miraculous power.
Amen.
We got to let these folk go, but I just hope we've encouraged somebody in their faith. And we, like always, we don't do ads anymore. We don't do advertisements anymore. But I got something I'd love for you to look at called The Vault. I put a lot into my teaching and preaching, as well as many ministers do. But now that I got some years in my rearview mirror, I've got thousands of hours of teaching on every topic imaginable, and we put it all in an archive called The Vault. But you can only get it through my app. So go to the Ron Carpenter app, download The Vault, check it out, look at it. It is subscription-based because we have to manage it. We have to put a lot of money into it, and it costs a lot to digitally master all of these old cassettes and VHS and everything, and that's what we're doing, making it high quality. But I would love for you to check it out for $9 a month. We used to pay $9. I pulled CDs around and DVDs, and I'd sell them at conferences.
Yep.
And you got one message for $9. Now you can get a guy's entire archive. That's a pretty good deal. So I'd love for you to check that out. Tell them what you do.
And if you need a voice in your life, you need somebody to hold your hand, to mentor you, to help you become a better wife, a better mother, a better business owner. It's for men and women. Join Hope's Inner Circle. Go to hopesinnercircle.com. And we meet twice a month. Once via Zoom, once on webinar, and it is pretty doggone good teaching.
Good stuff.
A lot of guests we have on there. You've been on there with me several times. We've had Darius Daniels, Real Talk Kim, John Maxwell, Sam Chan. Lots of amazing voices. And
growth
if you
stuff.
need
growth stuff.
Yes, a voice in your life to help you grow, to help you be better, join the Inner Circle today. I'd love to have you.
And until next time, it's Ron and Hope.
Unfiltered, real, raw, and relevant.
We love you guys. Hope this blessed you, and we'll see you real soon.